Thank you, Adonai. Joining me today is Adonai. He's going to be my co-host and helping with the questions that pop up in the chat and with any technical issues should we come across it. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk about the program. We're going to talk about concept proposals, the review process, scheduling, resources, and at the very end, we're going to allow for some Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please hold them till the end. But if you do have a question, feel free to use the hand raising feature in Zoom or type in a question in the chat and I'll do my best to get it. And again, though, we will have some time at the end of the session for Q&A should you have some questions. All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Joanne Hernandez. I am the grant program manager for the USDA AMS Specialty Crop Block Grant Program here in Colorado. I just would like to share my contact information with you if you have any questions or if you run into any technical issues with any website resources or with the concept proposal. Here's some ways that you could reach out to me so we can get that resolved for you. My direct email address is there and the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program email is also included. I would just ask if you haven't already received emails from us from that email account, go ahead and add it to your contact list because we will send out communications, including notices about your concept proposals from this email address. So to avoid it going to spam, we just ask that you get that added to your email account. And if you would like to reach me by phone, you could reach me here at the office number. So any questions, anything I could do to assist, feel free to call me there as well. All right, so we'll just talk about some overview of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. I know many of the folks I sent out notices to about this session today are familiar with the program, but I did recognize a lot of new names that I haven't seen before. So I'll do my best to explain here what the purpose is and provide you with the resources needed so that you feel comfortable if you do continue with the concept proposal, that you have everything needed to do so. So the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program is a federal grant that is funded by USDA and AMS. AMS is the Agricultural Marketing Service, in case anybody was unfamiliar. We will be using their acronyms quite a bit, as they're the ones that provide funding for this grant program. All right. So the purpose of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program is to enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops. So that is the main goal of the program. And I have provided a list of the actual defined specialty crops that are allowed. And what's important on that list here through this link is also what is not allowed, what is not considered a specialty crop block grant, but for the most part, a specialty crop. For the most part, it's fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, horticulture, nursery crops, including floriculture. But if you're not sure if a crop that you're going to be working on or supplying a concept proposal is a specialty crop, you can go through the list here to make sure that it is such. Here's also a link to the USDA AMS webpage. This is going to cover more information about the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program from the federal level. All right. So with the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, there's going to be two phases. Right now, we are looking for phase one, and that's going to be supplying your concept proposals, where we will then review and identify which ones will be invited to then apply for the actual grant through a grant proposal. So that would be phase two. So right now, we're looking to identify concept proposals that will be able to make it to phase two. And all right, so part of phase one, I just wanted to highlight a few things. We're anticipating around $700,000 to $800,000 in funding for federal fiscal year 24. This, of course, is pending official USDA notice. We are anticipating within the next couple of weeks that official notice. So if you're not signed up for our newsletters from the Department of Agriculture here in Colorado, feel free to reach out to me and I'll make sure you get added to the list because we will be sending out a media release when we have this information. And to keep you in the loop, if you're interested in not getting those notices, I'd be happy to get you added so you receive that information. So again, that pending USDA notice is going to be coming out in the upcoming weeks, and the Department of Agriculture, we will be sending out media release with that detail. Another highlight I'd like to point out is that this is a 3-year grant. The grant period for the awards, or excuse me, for the projects awarded in federal fiscal year 22 will run through the grant period of September 30th of 2024 all the way through September 29th of 2027. So it is a 3-year grant period. However, projects are generally 1 year in duration. There is some flexibility if you need extensions, but we do ask that it is at least 1 year in duration for your project. And projects can start as soon as January 2025, and this is all dependent on getting contracting. So assuming everything went accordingly, we would be able to get those projects started in January of 2025. And if you're not aware, this is a reimbursement grant, so you would have to track your expenses and costs for your projects and then submit that to the Colorado Department of Agriculture for reimbursement, and that would include providing expenses, documentation for those expenses, and submit that as a claim for reimbursement to get your reimbursement made. All right, so as I mentioned, concept proposal selected will be invited to complete a grant proposal for the overall application from CDA to USDA. So that would be, again, phase 2. Right now, we're taking the concept proposals. All right, so concept proposals, how to apply. How you apply is gonna be by visiting the webpage, the Colorado Specialty Crop Block Grant webpage, and I'll walk you through that here just a little bit. But I did want to point out that any of the resources you're going to need will be on the webpage. But if you do run into any technical issues, and I'll talk about a couple of those that you might see with the concept proposal template, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do my best so we can get those worked out. But just want to point that out, that if you do run into anything, or if you're not sure, or if there's a feature you're not able to text into this template, just reach out and we'll get things worked out for you. All right, so I'm going to jump over here to the web page. Let me just 1 second. All right, so give me 1 second. I don't know if all right, and I hope everybody can see the screen here. This is the Colorado Department of Agriculture Specialty Crop Block Grant Program webpage. This is template along with all the resources you might need to complete it. So how to apply. So right here, you'll see first we need to download the concept proposal template. It is a Word document, so I just want to let you know that when you download it, you're going to want to save it as such. So I'll show a couple steps here to show you how that's done. So I'm going to click on that here. Give me 1 second. And Ad and I can't see the chat, but can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the webpage, the template? Sorry.
How do you give the thumbs up?
Or if you just want to type in the chat.
Yeah, I can see the template. Thumbs up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, guys. I always tend to stumble here when it comes to moving screens here when I got a ton of stuff open. All right, so this concept proposal template, you first come here to file, and then you're going to come right here to download, and you come right over here to Word doc, and that's a .docx file. So we're going to make sure that we do that, and it will pop open for us. One second here. All right. So the couple areas that I had mentioned where you might see some functionality lost is going to be where there should be a drop down or a checkbox. So if you are unable to check a box, or if a drop down doesn't pop up, feel free to just add text, and I'll show you what I mean by that as we get to one of those checkboxes or one of those drop-down lists. So the deadline for the concept proposals is February 16th by 5 p.m. So you'll want to make sure that you have your concept proposals submitted by then, and you'll email that to the program email that I shared, and I'll walk through that again too to make sure everybody has that email account. So you just put your basic information here. Where I'm highlighting, this was supposed to be a Dropbox, but for some reason the macros and the memory, it just seems to get lost when a file is downloaded from Google Drive. So right here are the options for business type. If you just want to type it in text, which one of the above it would be. So for instance, state government, you would just type it in right here. So I'm sorry that the drop boxes and the check boxes are being a little finicky, but if you can work around it and just add the text, that would help. But again, if you run into issues that you can't get around, reach out to me and we'll work through it. All right. So the unique identity or unique entity ID number, that's going to be required. It used to be the DUNS number, but now it's the UEI. So you'll want to type that here. If you don't have it at this time of the concept proposal, but you'll be able to get it in time for the grant proposal phase 2, you don't have to include it in this one, but if you do have that, put it in here because that's going to be helpful. But just keep in mind, if you don't, it's something that will need to be done prior to the grant proposal phase. Federal tax ID number, you'll want to type that in here. And I'm just going to come down here to history. And this is one of those areas where this checkbox, it's not working. So if you see a box that doesn't work, just type an X next to where you would have the checkbox. All right, so it's basically the same template from previous years, but some of the big things you're going to want to keep an eye out are going to be for these measurable outcomes and the budget. So we'll first start with this projected measurable outcome. You're going to want to choose one. Now, some of the people who have joined and participated as grantees in the past, they've selected multiple outcomes for the grant proposal, which is fine. But for this concept proposal, you just need to select one measurable outcome, one indicator, and if there is a sub-indicator, you can just type that in and provide that data. And I'll walk through what these look like in case you're not familiar. And when I'm talking about these terms, they're a little bit different if you're not familiar, so we'll walk through those. So here's an instance where my drop boxes, it says choose an item, but they're not working. So here's an instance where if you can just copy paste, and I'll show you the source, but if you copy paste or type in text what your answer would be, that would be fantastic. And you don't have to put the entire text. If you want to just do, like, say we're going with outcome 2, indicator, and then we just put here 2.1. So you don't have to do the full text. If you could just do the numbers, that would be excellent. All right, so I'm going to just pop over here. So here's your project purpose. You can do 500 words or less. So you'll want to complete that here for your project. Duration of project, as I mentioned, no earlier than January 1st of 2025. But as I mentioned earlier, that the grant period actually starts in September of 2024. So if you did need an earlier start date, we would just need to work sooner on getting contracting, but that would come later. So you don't have to worry about that now. But just if you are interested and your concept proposal does make it to the grant proposal phase, just keep in mind that you could have an earlier start date if needed. And you'll just tap that in here. And again, my apologies, another field where it lost the functionality. So if you just want to type your dates in, that would be great. All right, so just more information. Here's where I was talking about the projected budget. And again, some of the functionality didn't cross over, so it may not auto-calculate for you. So if it doesn't, if you could just type in your numbers here and just double check your math to make sure it's good. When we go through the review process and then contracting all that, we'll make sure that everything adds up. But for the initial phase, just make sure your math, everything is lining up here on the budget category. It's noted here too that external support is required. So at least 1 and up to 5 letters of support. So if you can provide that, you'll just want to attach it to your concept proposal in an email to us here at the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. So again, 1 up to 5 letters of support. And I just wanted to mention, that in-kind is listed here as a column. In-kind is not required for this project. So if you do have it, you can list it here, but just know it is not a requirement. So if you don't list anything, your proposal won't be scored negatively based on that. Okay. And I'm just gonna hop over really quickly. Give me one sec. Okay. All right, and Adonai, can you unmute real quick and just let me know, can you see the Specialty Crop Colorado webpage?
Yes, we are seeing the webpage.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. All right, and thanks everybody for sticking with me through this. All right, so back to how to apply. So this is the link for that concept proposal template. You'll save that as a Word file. You'll get that completed and filled out, and you'll email it to us here at the CDA_SCBGP@state.co.us email. In the subject line, I do ask that you put FFY for federal fiscal year 24, concept proposal, your company's name, and just list it after. This will help me sort through them as I start to receive them. And so within that, you're going to want to attach the Word document concept proposal to your email, and then also any of those external letters of support. If you submit your concept proposal and your letters of support, but then you have additional letters of support that you want to add and the application period is still open, go ahead and send those to me, and I will make sure to get those attached to your concept proposal for our reviewers. Now, I will do my best to get back to everybody in less than 2 business days, just to send a confirmation that your concept proposal was received. I'm anticipating at least 60 to 70 concept proposals possibly. So if you submit one and you haven't heard from me within the 2 business days, I just ask that you kindly reach out to me and let me know. I just want to make sure I don't miss any. And if I haven't sent a confirmation, there is a possibility it slipped. And I just want to make sure that those are all reviewed. I'll do another sweep through emails to make sure I don't miss any. But again, if you don't get a confirmation within 2 business days, just give me a chat, send me an email or even a phone call, and I'll get that logged so we make sure that we have your concept proposal. All right, and as I mentioned, concept proposals are due no later than February 16th by 5 p.m. So please have them to us by that date, because anything received after that time, they will not be considered for this round. Just some heads up on what's next. So February 16th through mid-March, that's going to be a review period of the concept proposals, and I'll walk through a little bit more of that in detail here in just a moment. And then April 1st is around the time that you can anticipate hearing back about your proposals, whether it was accepted and you're invited for the next phase, phase 2, or if it didn't make the round of review in this first shot. So these are just some key dates you might want to keep an eye out, especially if you're looking for notices. It may be a couple months down the road, but just know that by April 1st, likely sooner, but by April 1st at the latest, you'll receive notice of the status of your concept proposal. And just some additional resources here on the webpage. There's a concept proposal template again, just another link for you to find it. There's a sample concept proposal that you could click on and walk through. We've got the concept proposal instructions, allowable and unallowable costs. If you don't have that UEI number that I mentioned, here's a link that will give you instructions how to do it. And as I mentioned, that 2024 RFA from USDA is coming soon, and I will make sure to link that here as soon as we have that available. The current USDA terms and conditions are linked here, so if you wanted to dive into more about the program, you're welcome to. There is some good information in there, but we have identified some of those things and have separate documents if it's a shortcut. But again, all resources here should you need some additional help. All right, and then I'm going to pop over really quickly. Give me just one moment. Okay. And Adonai, can you see the concept proposal instructions?
Yes, we're seeing it.
Fantastic. Thank you for confirming. All right, I'm just going to pop all the way down really quickly towards the bottom. As I mentioned a little while ago about those outcomes and indicators, So here's where you would find those are. And these are going to be the performance measures that you anticipate using for your project. So for instance, if you have outcome 1, here's outcome 1, increasing consumption and consumer purchasing of specialty crops. Underneath here are the indicators, and these are the sub-indicators. So say you're going with outcome 1, indicator 1, sub-indicator 1A. I would just ask that you copy and paste, or at least do the number part here in your concept proposal. And then if you have an amount, a value that you can add, just include that value. So I hope that didn't confuse anybody, but here's the outcomes and indicators listed completely, and this is all within the instructions page. And there's 7 outcomes, and they all have various amounts of indicators, and some have sub-indicators. So these are going to be the things that if your project does get accepted into the next round of phase 2, these things are going to be really important because they're going to be major factors in your grant moving forward. So things such as reporting annually, quarterly reports, these are going to be the things that we're looking for in addition to budget. So again, that was the concept proposal instructions, and that can also be found on the webpage. And then I'm just going to pop back over to my presentation. All right. And let's see. So just that reminder, again, the template's not perfect, has some issues. If you run into trouble, reach out to me. I'm happy to help get that situated. All right, so we'll go ahead and continue here. All right, and just that reminder about budget and expected measurable outcomes and indicators, just some reminders, more links to those tables of where you would find the full list of allowable and unallowable. It's pretty lengthy. If you're not too sure and you've looked at the resources, again, just reach out to me. Any questions along the way, getting your concept proposals, I can provide technical support. I can't really provide like strategy or ways to complete the other information, but technical support, I can help you out, and I'm here to do that for you. All right. The concept proposal review process. So I just wanted to provide some information on what that looks like. So while you're providing your concept proposals, a little bit of time is going to go by before you hear confirmation. I just want to let you know what's happening while you're not hearing from us after you've submitted your concept proposals. So step 1, we will form a specialty crop block grant program review committee. And ideally, we'd like to have at least 7 committee members. The more we can have, the better, especially if we receive a large amount of applications. That is a possibility, and then that makes it extra competitive. So we do like to have enough committee members that the applications are getting thorough review, and we will do that. And I will mention that if you are on this call, you work in specialty crops, you're familiar with this whole process, or you would like to be more familiar. If you're interested in becoming a reviewer, please reach out to me. You wouldn't be able to review any concept proposals you're linked to, but you'd be able to review others, and we'd be happy to have you on our committee. So if that is something you're interested in and you'd like to read some proposals, shoot me an email and we'll go ahead and get things set up for you, and we'll get things worked out. So as mentioning, that committee, it does consist of departmental and external resources. So we will look for growers, representatives, and such, and try to get a good collection of review committee members that will give a good look and help us identify the grant proposals we should move forward. So after the team's formed, then that's when we actually go in on the review process. So we will ask the reviewers to provide as much detailed feedback as possible. We know that they are unable to do it for every single instance, but we are, and we do ask that they provide some feedback. So if your proposal's not selected, we can at least give you some insight on what the reviewers thought. So we will do our best to collect that information so we can share that with you, so it can help you in future concept proposals you might submit for this program. The committee will meet multiple times. So during this process of review, the committee will meet and they'll talk about the projects, and they'll discuss and hopefully come to a good consensus of who they're going to be recommended, what projects will be recommended, and those recommended projects will be sent for review to the Ag Commissioner. So a memo will go out. So that's our review process. but ultimately the USDA, the funding entity, they have final approval on projects. So we go through this process to come up with a fair way and to review applications and to come up with the best projects that the committee sees fit. So we do our best to do that, but again, ultimately the USDA has overall say on the projects that do get funded. Okay, this schedule, if you've been on the webpage, you already are familiar with it. I just wanted to highlight a couple of those dates on here. The concept proposals are again due February 16th by 5 p.m. and that's Mountain Time. If you are invited for phase 2 to submit a grant proposal, we will be sending those out prior to April 1st. It all kind of depends on how many concept proposals we have and how easily we are able to get to that recommended list with the funding available. And then, so those who are invited for phase 2 to submit a grant proposal, that's going to happen through mid-April, and we'll need to get those dialed in for USDA to have those ready for May 1st. So I'm sure, so if you are interested in applying, should you be moved on to the next phase, you're kind of aware of what's happening next. So that way you're aware that some more work needs to be done and we can work together to get that done. This is the timeline that we have and the timeline that we'll be working with for federal fiscal year 2024. All right, and as I mentioned, I would share a couple resources here. Each of these resources has a bunch more resources within it. I first listed the allowable and allowable cost activities table. That way, if you're unsure of costs that you want to put in your budget, you can confirm here. If you're not sure, you're not getting a clear answer, again, reach out and we'll work through it together to get something figured out. This is going to be a big one, the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program CDA webpage. That's going to have your concept proposal template, instructions, a sample, and links to the USDA as well. The AMS webpage is here, and then the terms and conditions here. So those are just a couple short links that you can use here through this slide that will be shared later, or again, visit the webpage and you'll be able to find all the links there as well. And I'll just say again, reminder that applications, concept proposals are due by February 16th, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. All right, so that was a whole lot of information. I'm going to leave this slide up here just for a few seconds. If you don't have my contact information, it's here. Here's my email address. Here's my phone number, and here's the program email. Again, just have these contacts in your email and in your contact list. If you plan on, learning about the program or communicating about the program, this is going to be the fastest way to do it and fastest way to reach me. So that information is there. And I will go ahead and stop that and share video here and say hello, everybody, again. I'm Joanne. Here's my face. I turn it off because sometimes it lags with the internet connection. But I wanted to take this time to open it up to some questions, and I believe we might have had some in the chat. Let's see here. Let me see. Okay, Eduardo, thumbs up. Thank you. Chris Jones for the budget. Let's see. Let's see. Good question. You can likely put it into travel. If it's contract work, Chris, then you can do it in the contractor piece as well. Great question. Thank you. I hope that answered it. Let's see, is there a maximum value? Not necessarily a maximum value. There's been projects I've seen that ranged from, pardon me, under 10,000 to over 100,000. So it just really depends on your concept proposal, all of the parts involved. So you just want to be mindful that there is a limited pool. So if your project doesn't need, complete total funding, incorporate that. If it does, incorporate that too. So there's not necessarily a maximum. Just take into consideration that there is a limited pool of funding. And then could you provide, Eduardo's asking, could you provide last year evaluations for those that were not funded? So we didn't get a whole lot of feedback, and that's why each time we ask our reviewers to please provide something, even if it's feedback on budget categories or anything in the narrative that was unsure. So while not every application got reviewed and provided the ample data that would provide feedback, so this year I'm going to do better at really driving that into our reviewers, that this is something that we're requesting and that's really helpful. So I could always look through past reviews and see if there's anything. So Eduardo, if you want to reach out to me, and I could look at them and see. But if there wasn't, there's not really much we could do besides moving forward, try to capture that for future reviews. And then Kim Rosa, you have a question?
Yes, hi. Thank you. I was looking for some clarification because I'm new to this type of grant. Would this apply to a small farmer that focuses on a monocrop? So ours is garlic. But what I'm getting when I looked at the materials is this is really an education-based grant. And
yeah, it's a grant to increase the competitiveness of specialty crops in Colorado. So if you've got a good case, you would be able to apply. And that list of specialty crops, and if you're interested, our past reports too are also listed via USDA. If you're interested just to kind of seeing, there are a lot of educational institutions that do submit grant proposals. But if you're a small farm, you are still welcome if you're working with specialty crops.
okay, so would this be just seed development or growing our farm? Because I did see one example that was included in the paperwork, and it said the only thing that was closest to us was a small family farm that got high tunnels so that they could do education to other farmers.
Yeah, we might want to talk about it one off. Yeah, let's talk, and let me get some more information from you, Kim, if you don't mind. I can set up a time for us to talk. I'll send you an email after this.
Okay, I'll email you. Thank you.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, and we'll set up a time and we'll dig in a little bit more and hope I can get those questions answered for you, and we'll get moving.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Derek?
Yes, thank you. So I work for CSU Extension, and there's a project that I have a few different partners with that are all involved in specialty crop production. And would it be okay for the concept submission to submit letters of support that came from a previous grant? You know, like if they're addressed to another entity, but it's for the same project and they're stating their support, would that be acceptable, or does it have to be a brand new letter?
I would include that, but if you have something else that's also a direct letter, I would provide that too.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and I'm reading your question, Eduardo. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I agree with getting the feedback from reviewers. So we'll do better at, you know, each year asking for more feedback. It is a pretty competitive process, so that information is crucial, especially if you're going to apply the next year and you didn't get funded. So yes, I'll make sure that we work on that. And again, if anybody is interested in being a reviewer, please reach out to me. We can, you know, get you dialed in and help you see what we're looking for and work together to get these projects funded. So if you're interested, just email me or call me or put a message in the chat now and I'll reach out to you and we'll get something coordinated. All right, that was a whole lot of information in a short time. Are there any other questions? Are there any other concerns, issues, anything I can help clear up? Yeah, definitely. And I will also, I'll be sending an email out at the end of this with some information to everybody. And in that, I will also include a link to my Calendly that will allow you to schedule a 30-minute call. If you want to just get something on the books, we could do that too. So I'll follow up with everybody after this email and make sure that you also have an email from me. if you don't see it, I would just check your spam or junk. If you don't see it by end of day today or Monday at the latest, I would check it there just in case. So here's my contact information here. All right. Any other questions, program questions, budgets, any clarification I could make with the measurements that might be helpful?
Jennifer, I have a question since you evidently don't see my hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I didn't. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, on outcome 6, and you got the crop research and development, which was part of what we were thinking. You have something on 6.4 publications, industry, academic journals, and all that. But a lot of times those academic journals would come out after this time frame. How do we handle those?
That's a great question. I might have to chat with our grant specialist. We have a grant specialist at the USDA level, and each of them have a different requirement. So I will double check with her. And who asked that question? Can you
Joel Schneekloff?
Joel? Thank you, Joel. I'm going to make a note to follow up with you as well, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Awesome. I'm just going to make a note. And that was outcome 6. What indicator?
6.4.
6.4. Okay.
Because it asks about citations counted and views and review. And generally, if you're doing a journal submission or academic journal, it's going to be after all the research is done and probably, 6 to 8 months later.
Gotcha. So with these projects, I don't know. So I'll kind of talk about the reporting requirements. So each year that you're in this grant is an annual report. So the first 2 years are a little bit different than the third. The third would be the final. So the third is where it's actually looking for all this kind of detail. Now, say for instance, if you started your project January of 2025 and it ran through January 2026, would a whole year after that allow enough time for the publishing, or would it still take longer than that extra year?
We're thinking a 2-year project.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Repeatability. We're going to have to start some preliminary this year and then get more detailed with this project 2 year. So in reality, if we start in 25, you'd be looking at 27 when a publication would go out.
Okay.
At the earliest, yeah.
The final report would be due in November of 2027. And so if your project is accepted, then what we'll do is we'll work to find the best way. I'll confirm with USDA that they're okay with this too, but we'll work to find the best way with timing of your project, being able to have that detail and the final report that's due that would then list it also. We would work with you and make sure that we had that information. And if we didn't, we would work with USDA to provide the best solution if that information is not available for reporting, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. And Rosalind, you are correct. Match is not required for this grant. It used to be pre-COVID, but then after that, it's no longer required. So great question. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Joanne.
Yeah, of course. All right.
And I think there's one more question about salary and wages being allowable for reimbursement.
Yes. So yes, personnel and fringe is allowable for the grant. I will say that some of the requirements for providing reimbursement for that detail can be a little time consuming. So just be aware if you do build in personnel and wages, that the way that we manage that for reimbursements is receiving like a time log of hours, a brief description, and then sometimes pay stubs, something that shows that those wages were paid. If you have certified accounting payroll, that sort of stuff would work. So just keep in mind, if you are going to be doing personnel and fringe benefits, that you'll want to be tracking that data along the way. So when you submit a claim for reimbursement, you have that documented properly and it doesn't cause any delay in you getting any payment.
Joanne, one last question.
Yeah.
As we submit a proposal, if you say, yes, we like the idea, but we want you to scale it differently, will that be feedback that we would receive? So I'm just going to use round numbers. we apply for $50,000 and you say, we like this, but we'd like to see it at a $30,000 level, or what have you, right? Would you give us that feedback with the opportunity to either resubmit that proposal and or in the next round?
Absolutely. And there's even instances where concept proposals are selected, but then we work through them and we dial them in a little bit more before we do the grant proposal. But we'll work with you on that part. And then oftentimes, what I seen last year is, say you asked for 100,000, but then we come and say, hey, can you deduct 15 from here and readjust, and then we can grant your award at this amount. So it just kind of depends on the proposal, the budget, the details involved, overall funding that we have. So we may come back to you and ask for some adjustments, and that might even come after the grant proposal phase from USDA. So once we get these concept proposals, that's really just the start of everything. Concept proposals moved on to the grant proposal process, will then work with us, and then we'll then work with USDA. And this will take place through September, depending on how much time is needed to actually get the announcement from USDA out. So it can be a lot of steps that happen between now and then. Some are okay and they don't need any adjustment. It could be anywhere in between. So there is a possibility we may ask for some adjustment. All right, any other questions? Okay, I am not seeing any, but if I miss them, feel free to raise your hand. We'll leave it open for a couple more minutes. But as I mentioned, if something comes up later, you have any questions, again, just reach out and we'll get something worked out. And I'm here to support everybody, and no question is dumb. So if you have a question, just ask me. And a lot of times I learn from it too. So I appreciate the questions and the communication with everybody. All right. Well, not seeing any more questions here, so we'll go ahead and stop the recording. I will leave this session open here for a couple more minutes if anybody wants to